Okay, so let's talk about the Deep End Cave. First of all, a training ground inside an actual cave run by warrior monks. That's just so ridiculously cool. Like, where do I sign up?
It is fascinating, isn't it? But it's not just a clever setting. The idea of the cave as a test for resilience and teamwork clearly highlights the book's central themes. It's about pushing these teens to confront their limits without relying on their usual crutches, like advanced technology or, well, parents.
Right? And it's so brutal. I mean, all those broken ankles and arms Jenny talks about, it's no summer camp, that's for sure. But I love how their group starts bonding despite all that chaos. By the fire, you can really see their walls coming down as they swap stories.
Exactly. It's subtle but effective. That campfire scene demonstrates the shift from individual survival mode to group camaraderie. Even Joe, as cantankerous as he is, starts to fit into their dynamic, using humour to break the tension. His quip about the Kraken, it's both defensive and endearing.
And what about Veronique? She's this mix of charm and mystery, trying out all those accents. And then there's her quick wit. I mean, I'd totally be the one laughing at Sam's toilet humour too.
There's definitely something intriguing about her, and she uses humour in a very intentional way to connect with the group. But what I found just as compelling is the way Jenny assures them they won't fail. Her confidence helps offset the pressure these kids feel from people like D'Angelo. It's reassuring, in a way.
She's kind of like the fun teacher you had in school who somehow still made you believe in yourself. But, okay, we've got to talk about Nessy. Jenny's AI companion adds this fun, futuristic twist to an otherwise ancient setting. Did it throw you off at first?
A little, yes. It juxtaposes the spiritual, almost primal, training in the monastery with cutting-edge technology. But Nessy, in that small way, shows the duality of the order. They're all about balance, using tech where it aids progress, but not as a replacement for human effort and growth.
Totally. And Nessy isn't just tech. She's got this personality, right? It's like she's part of the group, but not. Which, honestly, makes me think, does personal AI help their growth? Or does it make things complicated?
That's a pivotal question. Nessy enhances Jenny's ability to lead, sure. However, for the teens, the reliance on AI might hinder their development if they allow it to overshadow critical thinking. The very design of the deep end suggests the order prioritises self-reliance over convenience, challenging them to trust themselves and each other instead of the tech.
It's such a great setup, though. Ancient warrior training mixed with, like, a teeny bit of sci-fi. And the way this chapter nails the whole band of misfits bonding under pressure thing. It's so good.
Agreed. The balance between these elements, between mystical tradition and modern invention, is key to what makes this story so unique. And watching the teens navigate this balance, while also navigating their relationships, gives the book its emotional depth.
For sure. Like when Jenny says, lean, mean, mysterious teens. I just about lost it. It's such a cheesy line, but it works. And Sam's little quip about songs. I love how even when things are intense, this book never loses that sense of humour.
Humour is an effective survival tool, especially in this kind of high-pressure environment. While they still have a long way to go, by the end of this chapter, you can already feel a notable shift in their dynamic. The cave challenged their physical limits, but it also pushed them to begin trusting one another, which is critical.
And now they get to call themselves the Stone Thieves. Ugh, it's such a rebellious-sounding name. I love it.
It certainly suits their trials so far, though I wonder if we've seen the last of those individual doubts and struggles. The reality is, growth doesn't happen overnight. It takes repeated challenges to reinforce teamwork when things get difficult.
Well, if this was just the first step, I can't wait to see what challenges come next. You know, speaking of Joe and his sense of humour breaking tension, his whole experience with the Krusa stones, wow, that was just so emotional. It added so much depth to his character. Like, imagine being transported into the one place that makes you feel safe when everything else around you is falling apart.
It really was a pivotal moment for Joe. His father's study, the books, the smells, even the faint sound of the lake outside, acted almost like an anchor for him, a place where he could ground himself. It's clear he's grappling with feelings of inadequacy and homesickness, but the Krusa stones gave him a way to, well, reconnect with himself.
Right? And it wasn't just any reconnection. It was like this ultra-vivid flashback. I could practically smell the cherry wood and hear the kids playing by the lake. It shows how memories are such powerful things. Oh, and the Shakespeare quote? Iconic.
It was certainly fitting. Joe's journey with the stone highlighted how much strength can come from one's memories. For someone who feels so out of place among this group, it was the reminder he needed to push through and stay determined. But this chapter isn't just Joe's story.
Oh, no way.
The meditation and Tai Chi exercises added layers to the story as well. The teens are learning to focus their minds, to trust in their bodies and instincts. What's interesting is how these practices are designed to build resilience in ways that go beyond physical fitness. They're learning discipline, self-control, even emotional balance.
And obviously, they don't all totally nail it. Poor Sam, right? It's like every time he tries to picture that flame, he's getting tripped up by, hormones. And Joe's just over there struggling to keep his focus all together. But Fedor? That kid is like Zen master in training.
Fedor does stand out as the most physically disciplined. You can see in this chapter how his upbringing has shaped him, making solitude and perseverance second nature. But working alongside others, that's entirely new for him, and still he's beginning to embrace it. Even his interactions with Joe have softened a little.
Yeah. And, okay, let's just take a second to appreciate how hilarious their dynamic is. Like, you've got Fedor swatting Joe on the back like, good job. And Joe's over there pretending it didn't hurt. It's these little moments that make their budding friendship so real.
Exactly. And those moments reflect one of the book's recurring themes, the significance of teamwork. This group of strangers, each with vastly different strengths and flaws, is being pushed to overcome their differences and trust one another. The Krusa stones, the meditation, they're not just tools or tasks, they're part of a larger journey, a test of their ability to rely on each other and themselves.
Totally. And then there's Mr. D'Angelo swooping in all mysterious. Like, what is his deal? He adds this whole new layer of tension. The way the teens look up to people like Jenny, but then have to navigate D'Angelo's looming pressure. It's intense.
It is. His presence underscores the stakes and the weight of their expectations. D'Angelo seems to represent the harsher side of the order, the side that demands results. It's a stark contrast to Gen C's patient instruction, or Jenny's encouragement, which in turn makes their support all the more vital to the group's survival.
Yeah, it's like they need both, right? That tough love and that support system. Otherwise, how are they supposed to grow? Man, I just love how this chapter ties all these threads together. It's like teamwork, resilience, self-discovery, perfect combo.
And it doesn't feel forced. The story uses their struggles, Joe's nostalgia, Fedor's discipline, even Sam's distractions, as natural ways to highlight their growth. They're on individual journeys, but those journeys are constantly intersecting, forcing them to confront not just external challenges, but their own inner battles as well.
I mean, they're literally growing as people while freezing their butts off on a mountain. If that isn't character development, I don't know what is. Speaking of everything they're going through, let's talk about the Krusa stones for a sec. They're just fascinating, right? Not only are they a literal stepping stone for the group's growth, but they also carry so much meaning about memory and identity. It's so layered.
It really is. The fact that they require such intense mental focus to activate makes them more than just a convenient plot device. They're symbolic of both personal growth and the importance of grounding oneself in something meaningful, whether that's a memory, a place, or even a smell, like we saw with Joe.
Right? It totally made me think about how we all have those little things that anchor us when life gets messy. Like just imagining Joe in his dad's study, surrounded by all those books and maps. It's such a vivid, emotional moment. And honestly, I love how it sets him up as more than just the sarcastic guy in the group.
Exactly. It's a turning point for him, but also for how the group sees him. His connection to the study and the sensory details of that memory demonstrate how our pasts shape us, which ties neatly into the deeper themes of the Order's teachings. It's not just about controlling the body or mind, it's about finding and fueling your inner strength, even in the face of doubt.
Okay, but let's not skip over the whole astral travel and telekinesis thing because, wow. I mean, how crazy is it to think that with enough focus you could make your spirit body zoom around or even teleport?
It's fascinating, isn't it? But what really struck me is how these abilities act as an extension of what the monks are trying to teach. It's not just about flashy powers, it's about achieving mastery over the self. These transformative skills reflect communal aspirations too, because in achieving personal growth, they're ultimately strengthening their group dynamic.
Totally. And I love how it's not like, hey, here's a magic cheat code, but instead this really intense long-term process. It makes the abilities feel earned, like there's no shortcut to enlightenment. Which, of course, brings us back to technology. Seriously, Nessy throws such a fun wrench into everything.
She does. On one hand, Nessy represents how far the Order has advanced, blending ancient tradition with cutting-edge tech like AI implants. But on the other hand, having AI involved raises some interesting questions about dependency. Does Nessy help Jenny lead better? Undoubtedly, but for the teens, reliance on tech could conflict with the Order's emphasis on self-reliance.
Exactly. And, I mean, Nessy's personality is such a wild card too. She's part of the group, but also not. It's like she's this bridge between their high-tech world and the primal discipline the monastery's all about. Such a perfect contrast.
It is. That duality is one of the book's most compelling aspects. The monastery represents discipline, mindfulness, and the physical grounding that the teens sorely need. Conversely, Nessy and the AI highlight the conveniences they've taken for granted in their lives so far. It's really about striking a balance between the two.
And honestly, I think we're only scratching the surface here. Like, these kids now call themselves the Stone Thieves, which, let's be real, is such a hardcore name. I can't wait to see how they grow into it.
It's a fitting name. They've already made strides in trusting one another, and as much as their time in the monastery is about self-discovery, it's also about forging bonds. Of course, they're bound to stumble. It wouldn't be interesting otherwise, but every stumble is a chance to rebuild stronger.
Totally. And if these first chapters are anything to go by, it's going to be one wild ride. I mean, training monks, psychic powers, AI, what's not to love?
I couldn't agree more. And that's all for today, folks. Thanks so much for listening to our breakdown of this chapter. Make sure to join us next time as we dive into the next exciting instalment of The Stone Thieves.
Yeah, don't miss it. It's just getting good. See you all next time.